What's going on, everybody? Carl Markowski here, and you are listening to the Playing On Podcast. Thank you for joining me. This episode is brought to you by Dr. Paintball, where you can go and finance the marker of your dreams, and Dr. Paintball can help you out. They also have this very cool little About Me and blog section where they have, or About Us, I'm sorry, but they kind of describe who they are and what their goals are, and along with that is they have a bunch of paintball content along with a blog and some videos. So make sure you check them out, drpaintball.com, and they have all kinds of financing structures and anything you can think of to get the marker of your dreams. So thank you, Dr. Paintball. We are also brought to you by Charm City Paintball, where this guy is actually making these new headbands that are out now. He's bringing back the Gucci print. I believe he's bringing back a couple other high-end prints as well. But he makes an awesome headband and an awesome head wrap. Make sure you check him out on Facebook, Charm City Paintball. Give him a look. Check it out. We are also brought to you by Carbon Paintball, who I have been using now since World Cup of last year, and they have a base layer with integrated knee pads and hip pads. Their protective top also has elbow pads, has some rib protection, but it's all a compression fit. This stuff is awesome. I've been using it for a while. I am a big fan, but you can check them out at carbonpaintball.com. So thank you guys. Also, a big thank you goes to Planet Eclipse, who I have been shooting since I was like 5 years old. I've been shooting Planet Eclipse, but they have a new LV series marker that is actually already out. It's the LV 1.5, and it has some new milling. It's all the same platform. Man, this thing, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And the reliability and the shot, and I've been shooting Egos forever. I don't want to say that I'm biased, but man, those things are awesome. Just make sure you go check out the new markers over at planeteclipse.com, and you will not be sorry. Those things are hotness. Now to our podcast, Nick Leival, man, he's been tearing it up ever since he got on the team, and it was very cool to hear his story and kind of his little journey onto Impact. And I love hearing stories like this of teams who are coming up, and all these teams usually get cherry picked, and the higher end players get picked out by the higher end teams. And Nick Leival was lucky enough to play his ass off when he was playing on 187, and Impact wanted him. They were going through a little bit of a rebuilding period, and they needed somebody like him that could kind of push up the middle and be a presence. So I think he's done nothing but made that team better, and he has been a constant threat up at the wall. So I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. I sure as hell had a great time. Thanks for listening, everybody. All right, Mr. Leival.
Carl Markowski, the Jet, what's up?
Oh, dude, just staying alive, bud.
It's always the goal, right?
Yeah, every day. I'm proud to wake up. Yeah, exactly. So, man, you are in Canada right now, correct?
I am, yes.
What are you doing up in the Great White North?
My girlfriend lives up here, so I try to visit as much as possible, and I love Canada. It's beautiful. I get to hike a lot, and mountains are right next door, so it's a great spot to be.
Dude, it's gorgeous. Every time I see your Instagram, I'm like, it's you just shooting the shit out of people, or you shooting the shit out of like mountains and like greenery. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, living it up right now. It's one of those I'm gonna ride that wave into the beach.
Well, dude, you have to. Life, not even life itself, but these small moments that we go through in these small chapters, because that's what they seem like big chapters, but they are such small chapters in our life. And I feel like this little paintball thing is made up of all these little tournaments and all these people that are in it, but you only have these small moments that you get to go to, even though let's say you have your Instagram pictures of where you're at or whatever, but how long are you there for? You're not there for very long, and then you got to come back to your hotel or your house or whatever, and you got to soak it up as much as you can.
Soaking it up over here. I think about that on the daily. Very appreciative of just my health and being able to go and see things and do things. So that thought's not lost on me by any means.
So how often you get up to Canada?
Man, I mean, at this point, I would say maybe once a month.
Yeah.
At some point, whether it's a week or I mean, we have a big break in between tournaments here, so I'll be up here for about a little short of 2 months, and within that, I'll be going to Shuswap, which is Bart's house. He likes to have the team up there for some bonding during the summer, so I'll be up there for about a week or so. So
nice, just
quite a bit of time.
Let him know if he needs any out of team bonding too. I'm more than welcome.
Yeah.
I will come up anytime.
He's a pretty open dude. I mean, go talk to him. He'd probably love to hear that. So I mean, that might be able to happen.
Yeah, you never know.
Don't be afraid of it.
One can only hope, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So where do you reside right now?
I live in Denver at the moment. One of my best friends moved out there maybe almost 3 years ago at this point, and he's been bugging me since the beginning, like, hey man, you got to come out here and try it out. So probably or around December this year, I actually took him up on it. I packed up my stuff and drove out there, and I haven't been out there as much as I wish because of paintball and then being in Canada and all that stuff. But man, Denver's a beautiful area. Very similar to Calgary in that sense, with the mountains very close by, and the people are very calm and polite.
Yeah, no, it's gorgeous. I think I've only been to Denver, or Colorado for that matter, only maybe 1 or 2 times, and I think it was for a 7-man
nice.
back in the day. But dude, I just watching pictures, and I actually just listened to a Joe Rogan podcast with.
Big fan of him.
Yeah, dude, I listen to it all the time.
Same here.
But who is James? Is it James Hetfield, the lead singer of Metallica? I think it's James Hetfield.
I don't know if I listened to that one actually, but continue.
But he lives in I think it's called Vale or Veal.
Oh, okay. Yep. Vail is a mountain town. That they're right in the thick of things.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. He has like this ranch, and he just hunts on it all the time, and he says it's beautiful. Like I guess his wife's family's from there, and he decided to move there after he visited them and saw how beautiful it was.
Yeah, just go full badass and live off the land.
Oh my god,
hunt your own game. Yeah, that's the dream. But every time I come close to that, I realize how hard it is. So I just like to dabble.
Yeah. Let's kind of start talking about your paintball career for a sec, and right. How you kind of got started in paintball. And my stupid screen locked up again, dude.
Yeah, I'm frozen too, but that's okay.
I don't know what it is. Like, well, I can see you going on my screen, but then my little in screen. So the people who are listening on the podcast, I record these and put them on YouTube, and ever since I updated this program, it's just been freezing, and I always have to I have to go in and edit a picture of me, not sitting there looking stupid. I have to make some kind of picture.
really light and blue those eyes, trim up the beard, full edit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, why it keeps freezing? So ever since I upgraded, it's been freezing. But anyway, that's besides the point. So you are originally from the East Coast, right? From where?
Yeah, I'm from the Boston area, so cold, northeast.
Yeah. I mean, were you born and raised there, or just born there, or?
Yeah, I was actually born in the city in Boston, and then my parents moved into the suburbs when I was about 5 years old. So, I mean, most of my memory would be suburbs, but I also went to school in the city, so pretty familiar with that area.
Yeah. Now, where's Upton 187? That's from Connecticut or Massachusetts, Maryland. No,
they're also in Massachusetts.
That's it.
Yeah, Upton 187 crew, which was Fox 4 Paintball is their home, but I mean RIP 187 crew at the moment. Who knows what will happen in the future? But
we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that for sure.
Yeah. That was about a 30-minute drive from my house, so very close. So it was in the beginning, it was pretty easy going back and forth between there. But
Yeah. So, well, how did you discover? Well, let's do this. How did you discover
yes,
paintball? Where did that come in?
so I'm one of those birthday party
Another birthday. I'm
got
gonna put another
yeah,
notch on the birthday
yeah.
party, Mark.
I think that's all there is. I feel like I haven't even heard another story, but yeah, it was a birthday party, and um, yeah, I just took a huge liking to it. I always played cops and robbers. My dad was in the military, so I every little kid wants to be like their dad. So I loved the whole um, combat aspect of it and sort of the strategy and
Yeah.
being able to outsmart and outmaneuver people out there in the woods. So definitely took a liking to it right away. And then I would say maybe about a month after I first played, I was like, all right, I need my own setup. And it's like, Mom, Dad, like for Christmas, can you get me a paintball gun? They're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess so. And it just becomes like every little chore you work for. It's like, all right, I'm gonna get new goggles. All right, like um, then my next birthday, I'm gonna like ask for a barrel, and then like
Oh, you had to
just
work for the whole setup, for sure.
well, yeah, for sure. But then also like you had the customizability, so
Hmm.
your buddies are getting the setups, and you're like, well, I'm gonna get this cool drop forward, like make my gun look sweet.
The flame drop forward.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had that one. I had the flame drop forward.
So,
Yeah.
with your size, was it kind of hard to, to kind of play, or were you always the same size like through high school and everything, or did you kind of get a late growth spurt, or as far as
I
like
mean,
sports go too? I mean, was it difficult?
from from my memory, I was always tall and lanky, awkward and too long for any of the right size clothing. But
Yeah.
it really never came into my mind, and I think that was one thing that maybe was a contributor to my never even thinking about it. No one ever told me like, hey, you're too tall for this, or like you can't fit into spots. Like I never really got that message, so
Hmm.
it never really hindered me. So I guess I've never even thought about it when I'm playing. I'm not like, oh, this spot's too small, or like I can't crawl down the snake. Like it's just totally in my mind that I can fit in there.
Yeah.
I can hide in that spot.
Oh yeah. Generally that's a any paintball player who's been playing for a long time is like, dude, I'll play whatever. Put me
Exactly.
in a small cake, dude. I'll play it. I'll stay alive for sure.
Yeah, I still surprise people now and then. Like our last Millennium event, Mouse came up to me and he's like, "Man, that point right there, I feel like you just proved that you can play the snake." And I looked at him. I'm kind of like, I never thought I couldn't play the snake, but it's
Watch your back, motherfucker. I'll play the
yeah,
snake
coming
now.
for your spot. No, but yeah, I've never really been hindered by being larger than most of the small little pro guys out there.
Now, did you play any other sports in high school? And around when did you discover paintball? Was it during high school or after? Or?
I kind of discovered it before slash right at the beginning of high school, but I played a litany of high school sports, soccer, football. Um, Even my senior year of high school, I jumped into lacrosse, which I was terrible at, but basketball, pretty much played it all. Like whether it was to be around friends or just I love competition and I love just being active. So,
Right.
I mean, and looking back on it, it was probably a really good thing that I had that sort of like structure where it was like, hey, well, after school, you have to go to practice instead of, getting into some shenanigans.
Right.
But through all that time, I was always into paintball where on the weekends I'd be like, well, like this is paintball time.
Hmm.
If I don't have a football game this weekend, then I'm playing paintball. Or if I don't have basketball during the winter, maybe I'll go play indoor. So
Now, was this back even before you were playing, at the speedball level? Even though it was like just going out and dinking around, were you still that committed? And when did the first actual kind of commitment to paintball start?
I actually think like I mean I'm really bad with my own history. I'm not really sure why, but From what I remember, like I got into speedball pretty quickly. Where my local field, the field that I started at and was playing at, called Friendly Fire Paintball,
Mm-hmm.
which actually two of my really good friends own that field now. But there was kind of like this little speedball field that they set up, and they were running 3-man tournaments there. And at some point, Max Trailer, one of my good friends, plays on Infamous now.
Mm-hmm.
He and a few of our other friends were kind of just like, hey, let's put in a team. And that was when we were really young, maybe freshman year of high school. So got into the speedball thing pretty quick, and
Yeah.
started off with 3 men, hit all of the levels where like you start amateur, and then it's like, oh wow, we won this one. We won some loaders. That's sick. So
Yeah.
like let's bring that and play novice next time. And then eventually worked our way up all of the 3-man divisions, and then at some point in there we got talked to by an older group of guys who at the time were sponsored by that field. They were called Friendly Fire Factory,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, hey, we're trying to get like a 5-7 man going, and like you little kids are pretty good. Like, do you want to come out and play with us? And we're like, absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
of course we want to start playing with some of the big dogs, because like at that time, like they were basically pro to us.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah. So jumped on with Friendly Fire Factory, and then did pretty well in the 7-man division in the Northeast area. We played a whole bunch of tournaments. I forget what our record was, but it was something ridiculous. Not that I had a huge part of doing it, but just the whole like system of how a team works, and what it takes to sort of
Be a part of a team.
be a part of a team. Yeah, that was a huge learning experience with the 7-man. And then at some point around maybe when I was like 18, the Friendly Fire Factory guys, the older guys, they kind of wanted to start playing nationally. They wanted to play like MPPL and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
at the time, that small little field that we were playing out of, like they were just like, sorry, like we don't really have the funding to help you do that stuff. And like, I mean, I'm a kid going to school with no job, and basically
That's all you want
don't
to do.
make any decisions. So
Yeah.
like it's not even up to me for anything. But so they ended up approaching Dave Painter, who owned a field down the road, which was Fox 4 Paintball,
Mhm.
and he had a bunch of younger guys that were playing on 187 crew, and that's where like Eddie Painter and a few guys, like, I mean, Thomas Mantoni was in that area at the time too. And we sort of merged teams. So like half the older guys were kind of just like, all right, well, we don't really want to play nationally, so we're out.
Yeah.
And then like Max and I and like a few others of the Friendly Fire team merged with 187, and then pretty much that's all she wrote, playing all of the other divisions nationally with those guys. So
Yeah, yeah. Now, back then, was Max Trailer wearing his pads on the outside of his jersey as well? Or was it?
I mean, Max has always been so non-traditional. Like, that's what I love about him, is he's like so genuinely himself that
Yeah.
like he doesn't care if you care that his pads are on the outside.
I loved it. I thought it was great,
Yeah.
dude.
Of course, yeah. He's always had like some weird headgear, or like
Goofy,
some
like purple goggle, or like some.
Yeah.
It was like the ugliest goggle I remember. It was like some grill, and I was like, dude, nobody's gonna wear that. And then I literally probably the same day he walks by like with those on top of his head. I'm like, oh my god, that's great. I love it.
Yeah, I've had to talk him out of a whole bunch of different things. I remember really specifically this one time where he's like, because like he went to school for entrepreneurship, so like he's always been about like ideas and the next thing, and like
Yeah.
he's just an idea guy. So I remember one day he was telling me, you know what, the next thing, like we've done colors, we've done all these combinations, we've done all this stuff. The next thing in paintball, glitter.
Oh my god.
And he was dead serious. He's like, I'm gonna get a glitter visor, and I'm gonna get like glitter on my mask. And I was like, please don't. As your friend, please don't. And I
Oh
mean,
shit.
I don't know how that didn't work out because he's the kind of guy that would just be like, well, what do you mean, please don't? Like, I want to do it, so I'm going to do
Yeah,
it.
you just
He
show up
didn't
with
end
it.
up doing it.
Oh,
The pads on the outside thing, that's just him. He's just genuine him, which I love. So
all right, Max. Challenge accepted. You gotta. I want to see a glitter goggle out
I
there.
want to see it too. Like I think he's at the point. Like, let's see that glitter visor.
Bring it out, dude. Bring it out.
Exactly.
Oh man. So you and Max merged with 187. And now at this point, 187 is kind of doing what? Are they kind of going through the divisions too? Or are they at this point? And around what year is this when all this kind of merging is happening?
Oh man, the year part, I don't know if I can answer that. Let's just say I was not old enough to drink area. So let's say
How old are you?
I'm 27 now.
Okay.
Or wait, am I 28 now? I think I'm 28 now. Yeah, I'm 28
Dude, I
now.
forgot my age just not that long ago too.
Yeah, it was my birthday like 2 months ago, so it's like I'm still getting used to that number, right? And then
Yeah.
when the next one comes, I'll forget that one, and I'll just stay 27, so it'll be perfect.
I tried that, but somebody kept telling me, "No, dude, you're 31." I was like, "Yeah, all right. Well, agree to
Well,
disagree,
that
I guess."
according to you, according to your time, but yeah.
Yeah. I know, man.
Um,
I'm trying to keep up with all these kids playing the snake and these fields and shit. It's getting tough.
I know. See you running around diving out there. I'm like, I'm a soft lander. You know, I feel like I'd rather get shot than land hard. So I'm always protecting the shoulders and
Oh yeah,
knees and stuff.
dude. Okay. So like the way I think about it is like I've learned and taught myself like how to dive to where I don't fuck up my body. The only time I fuck
Right.
up like diving or anything like that is if like I miss a head check on somebody or I miss checking somebody off and they like kind of scare me a little bit and I need to try and move a little bit faster than when I
Oh
thought I was
yeah,
going to or like and then that's kind of when you tweak something or I move in a weird spot and land on something I'm not prepping my body for or whatever but
yeah. You planned for a certain speed and then had to kick it up a notch.
yeah, and it's weird how it's weird how my body and my mind kind of just are all in one whenever I'm diving. Like I'm subconsciously counting my steps and knowing when to dive or when to hit the ground or at what angle my knee and my leg need to be to slide fluidly into like a corner or something like that. It's weird how you learn that over the years playing paintball and
Yeah, to where it is just not even a thought.
yeah, yeah, it's
But
all in the back of your head.
for for me, it's more like if I'm like nervous about making a move, like for example, I don't know, let's say I'm in practice and it's like, which I do quite frequently, where I'm like, I'm running the snake this time, or like I'm gonna go up and over to like Dorito 3,
Oh shit.
and it, if like just before I kind of get that feeling where I'm like this isn't right, I'll pull right out because
Yeah.
that's when I feel like I get hurt because like I've just learned that about myself like hiking and like climbing and stuff where
Mhm.
like if you get that little twinge of like this isn't right, then like don't jump that rock or like
Yeah.
don't climb that extra 10 feet.
Mhm.
So that's more of my hurt because that's every time I've gotten hurt, I've felt it before. I'm like, don't do this. And then I
Yeah.
do it and I'm like, well, there you go.
I told you not to, and now
Yeah,
you're
I
still
told
doing
me.
it. And it's weird. Like you can't explain it because if your brain and you're thinking and you're conscious of it right now, then what is telling your consciousness not to? I mean, you can call it, I guess, your conscience, but like it's hard to explain because what is telling you, even though you're thinking in your brain right now, not to or to do something, even though you're thinking a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, from like I always I try to stay pretty logical and like a little more like evidence based, but I mean, I feel like the older I get, the more I feel like that there's certain things that just kind of can't be explained,
Hmm.
and I think that there's like a lot of that when you are playing really well, you sort of just like plug into this thing that tells you, hey, like make this move, or like, hey, don't make this move, and that like that subconscious, I don't know where it comes from, but it's definitely a real voice, and it might not even necessarily be you,
Hmm.
or maybe it's you in the future, who knows? But like I think that's a real sort of that gut intuition is something that A, you should listen to, and B, you should sort of train yourself to trust.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And I feel like everybody who at least plays paintball and maybe even I would say at a competitive level, because that's really all I know as far as paintball goes. I feel like everybody has that feeling, no matter what level you're at. If you're rookie or if you're pro, I just feel that the difference is that the pro guys listen to that more often, and you can see it when the second guessers are the guys who are a little bit less experienced, and it's so weird too, because I mean, perfect example, and it fucking happens to me all the time, and I kick myself for it. Is, let's say you're in a situation where you're like in a 2-on-4, and you're one of the two guys left, and you're kind of in one of the like the 30 cans or whatever. And you gotta kick back to a corner, and you kick back to a corner, and you know that the guys are gonna try and come down the tape. Let's say they're gonna come down Dorito side, and you're in the snake corner, and you can kind of hear what's going on, you kind of feel what's going on, and all of a sudden you say, "Dude, shoot the lane for Dorito 3 to Dorito 4," because you know he's gonna go. And like one time you shoot him out, and it works out perfect, and maybe you pull out the point. Exactly, you catch him. But then the next game, and it happens again, but this time you think about it, and you're like, "Oh, he's gonna move," and you're like, "No, he's not gonna move. It's too soon." And you kind of start doing something else, and then you see him flash by. You're like, "Motherfucker, I should have listened to myself." It's just it's weird. It's hard to explain.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. Like, I mean, on Impact in general, there's a big preach about discipline, and like that's a really ambiguous term. I think, like, what is discipline, especially when it comes to playing the game. And like I've come to figure out that, for me anyway, discipline is off the field as much as it is on the field, where it's like, man, my bed's not made, I should make it right now. But when you make that decision, that conscious decision, like, I know it's the right thing, but I don't want to do it, it almost dulls that voice in your gut that, like, you're almost like suppressing it. So like that discipline where it's like, I should call this person, or like I should, whatever it may be, sort of like translates onto the field to where that gut feeling where it's like, where I should, I think this guy's going to go, I think I should just shoot this way. Like, you become more in tune with yourself in terms of that feeling of listening to your gut. And I think that's really what the discipline is, where it's like, should I come off this lane and maybe look across the field because I don't quite know what's going on right here? Or like, is my job to keep this guy out of the snake and just trust my guy on the other side's going to hold it down over there?
Right.
Like, I really think that's a huge part of discipline, and it comes from you sort of trusting and believing in yourself.
Yeah. Now let's say you, like, when you're playing up the wall, or even when you're playing in general, do you kind of, whoever you're playing against, let's say, like, when you're up the wall, you're kind of you're cutting guys down from filling out, going to their secondaries or what have you. Are you kind of guessing, because I know sometimes there's like a tower in the way or a pin, and are you kind of feeling it out on, okay, well, what would I do in their situation? And are you kind of timing everything out that way, or is it just kind of like, I'm sitting here waiting, I'm doing my job, I'm sitting here waiting and doing my job, or is it one of those, well, I would move right about now or within the next 10 or 15 seconds kind of a thing?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, because at least in that position, what I've come to understand is, like, what you're doing really is taking in as much information as possible. Like, what choices you're making really come from a lot of different things. Like, for example, a 5-on-5, and let's say our team loses a snake guy. I know we're weak on that side, so I mean, it's probably better if I help our second guy over there to lock down that side. Or let's say the other team makes it into the snake 2 off the break, and I have the best shot on him. It's probably better off that I stay posted that way to help the team. So I think that it has a lot to do with, like, with strategy, how the wall player is going to play it. Like, is it worth it to run through and clear a guy out early because that guy's been cutting down a side? I think it has a lot to do with what the other team's giving you and what you got as a breakout. Because, like, I mean, people are so good nowadays. Like, you're gonna lose people off the break, and you're gonna shoot people off the break, or maybe everyone makes it alive. But either way, it's kind of like a dice roll every time. To where maybe you guys have three, maybe the other team has five, but either way, I think that position, I think you're playing the odds that are given to you.
Hmm.
It's not really like a set play as much as it's how can I best help my team in this situation.
Yeah, 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 and that's kind of what. See, and that's the thing too. It's like I feel the same way, and then on top of that, each guy has their individual job, and then which is on an individual side of the field, which
Hmm.
you have to work together with another guy normally, because you're working in like groups of two for the most
Right,
part on the
right.
field, but then you actually have to work in a group of five or four of whatever you have on the field. So there's
Hmm.
so many small little individual things that are happening in just one match or in one point, that there's so many things that go through somebody's head and a player's head. And like in my position, I'm always looking for that window that you're going to give me or that I'm going to
Right.
force you to give me, and I always try and be in control of the situation as much as I can, because I feel I play more confident and more comfortable whenever I feel like, okay, I know I can shoot you in pretty quickly, and I know I can move to the spot pretty quickly. But then after that, I gotta let my teammates kind of move up the field, maybe turn a couple guns, shoot a couple loader
Right.
tips or whatever. Um, do you do you kind of feel that way, like when you're at the wall and let's say you're blocked out by things, or you're just kind of sitting there waiting for a guy to fill out? Do you feel in control, or is it just kind of waiting until you shoot a couple bodies, then maybe you can do that little run of the gut and be a little bit more in control?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think that like honestly, I think that like the times that you feel out of control is when you don't know what to do in a situation. Like you don't have the answer for it. And the times you do feel in control is when you know all the bodies on the field and you kind of know what your general strategy should be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I've just tried to become a student of the game as much as possible. Not even in the sense of like basic snap shooting and all that stuff, but it's like in a situation of 3 on 5, where's this five going to try to push, and like what players on the field are more likely to push, and where are we weakest? Like I think that is really the driving decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So if like if I ever feel out of control, or like it's starting to feel like chaos, like personally I feel like I haven't done my homework, or I didn't come into it with the right mindset. So like yeah, there's definitely both, but a lot of it to me anyway, I never chalk up to just sort of like the game being chaos. It's
Right.
always it's always me not understanding as much as I should.
That's a good way to look at it, because I mean, there's so many variables and so many things that happen during a match, but it's very repetitive at the same time. So
Hmm.
if you chalk it up to not being prepared or anything like that, I mean, there's only a few different situations. See, there's a few different situations that you're in because there's only so many game plans, but then inside those game plans, how many different things can happen with how many different
Yeah.
guys being shot, or the other team going to how many different spots. So there's so many variables, not only happening upon yourself on the choices that you make, but also you don't know what the hell the other team is going to. You have a general idea of what the other team's going to do.
Right. Or a good
But
guess at the very least.
yeah, but first you have to guess at where they're going to go. Then you have to guess at where their first snapshot is going to come from. And then you have, there's all these decisions
And
and
then you have to
choices.
guess which, like, if one of your teammates loses like a by chance snapshot, or
Hmm.
but that's my favorite part about the game is like as you were saying, like it can be repetitive, but only in the sense of there's a certain strategy that's being applied almost all the time by
Yeah.
everybody. Like whether you're a snake guy, you're trying to get in the snake and you're trying to go down the snake. If you're a center guy, you're trying to support whatever side needs support, or you're trying to shoot a guy off the break. So like there's kind of a limiting number of variables per player, and like what you're ever going to see in front of you.
Yeah.
But I think that's the repetitive part of it. But I think like at least how I've been seeing the game recently is it's who can put all those variables together the fastest and then react off them.
Right.
And it's like it's almost like I don't think there's very many pro guys that don't understand the that basic format of the game of like what you need to do. But then there's like a separation to where people can put those variables together very quickly, and then even another separation for people that can then understand what the other guy's variables, like how they solve the equation, and then make an equation off of that.
Yeah,
You know what
it's
I'm saying?
constant. It's constant bouncing back and forth.
Yeah,
And
so you see like really good players, like let's say like Archie or something, like he's backed way off a spot, and you're like, how the hell is he doing that? It's like, well, he solved your equation, and then he put his equation towards that. So
exactly.
that's a
Yeah, and I mean, do you think that the game is more of an act or a react? Or let's say your game. Is your game more of an act or more of a react style?
I think personally, I'm more of a react style. I'm more of a counter punch sort of player, fighter, gunfighter, or whatever. Like, and it's a weird thing because what you're fighting is always not being passive. Like that's what makes me sort of jealous of like guys like you that are like just aggressive all the time, where like you're fighting like the urge to not hold back, whereas like I'm fighting the urge not to hold back too much. So like for me, like the counterpunch game is I would rather see what someone gives me, and then I'll make a move off that, or I'll stop them from making a move off that. I don't know, that's I guess that's my style.
No, I can totally see that, and like even with me, like playing these harder spots, playing up front, and I'm not saying anybody's spot is easier than another, but
Right.
Playing as far forward as I have to play,
Getting real close.
I love getting real. I don't know what it is, but like even if I don't shoot anybody, if I can get really close to you to make you really nervous, I'm already doing my
Yeah,
job.
you're great at that, because that's definitely like a fear where you're like, oh shit, he's really close, and he's not really afraid that he's this close.
Yeah.
So like that's a whole nother game in itself. But yeah, you definitely play that perfectly.
Oh, I love it. I mean, just being able to kind of, and I think that plays in my favor as far as, that's my game style, and your game style is like you said, it's kind of reacting. But if I can change your game style by forcing you to do something else, that's I think is an upper hand in my playbook, and can turn the game around. I feel and it's like I think it's all field dependent too. Like even what was it the Dallas field when the snake side wasn't really getting played that much. And if you can go, I can go down the snake. I can start turning the field that way, and making teams that aren't really playing the snake side change their game plan because of it. We've already got the upper hand on that side, in that aspect anyway. And I think that's a lot of my game too. Is kind of making different players and different plays be changed because of the spots that I'm just getting into.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that definitely changes a game and how players are going to play. Because, I mean, I guess the way I kind of see it is there's like, the way I describe it is I think there's like 5 gears like that you have in paintball, and like gear 5, that's like the guy that's running the snake off the break and is going to crawl to your side in the first minute. And then you have like the gear 1, which are the guys that just will not die out of the back, and they will make it like as hard as possible for you to dig them out. And there's certain people that are just really, really good at gear 1 and gear 2, or gear 4 and gear 5. And then there's also people that are like mediocre at all of the gears. So like that, I think that like your style of like gear 5, that's something that like a team has to take into account, where it's like, well, this guy's going to push really hard, this guy's gonna not necessarily push that hard. So let's say if you have a gear 1 person behind you, it's like, well, Carl's playing by himself. You know what I mean? Like that's part of the strategy too.
Yeah.
Where it's like if you don't match up gears, or if you haven't learned to play the other ones, then like you have the potential of being a one-trick pony, but like I think that everybody, I mean, at least at our level, has a little bit of all of them at the very least, but still taken into account. Like I mean, the thing that I'm trying to work on the most is the gear 5 and gear 1, because I feel like I've got 2, 3, 4, but my 1 and 5 are lacking. So like, I mean, it's just for anyone listening, like if you can kind of sort of be honest with yourself and recognize your weaknesses and sort of really focus on it, I think it helps tremendously.
Yeah, and I think the position that you play and the style and the way that you play it is almost like somebody who is a gear 5, because they, like, even if anybody plays against you, or even if we play against you guys, we're like, okay, we know Nick's going to play up the center. We know he's going to be a motherfucker to dig out, but we also know that it's a lot easier said than done, you know? And so just,
Right.
And it's just like having somebody in the 50 snake. I mean, that bunker is a 50, you know? And being able to play it the way you do, and if nobody catches, I think that's the slick thing too, if nobody catches the way you go up there initially or even filling, I mean, it's catastrophic as far as a game plan for the other team goes. And I think the style and the way that you play it and how patient you are is that perfect 3 of your time. 3 is almost the timing, right? 3 is the timing guy. He knows when not to move and when to move, and when to be aggressive and not to be aggressive. And I feel like, you know, you might not be the 1 and you might not be the 5, but you make a perfect 3, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and it totally makes sense. Like, I think that gear specifically is like made for center guys, like that could potentially play any side. So I mean, like that sort of play style, I think, really lends itself to that position. So I don't know what makes that, whether it's like personality, but I've always wondered that, because like you're not a guy who's just like super ball of energy, like, Carl, shut up, like you're just too much. So like your personality on the field, where you're in people's faces all the time, it's like that doesn't match your sort of like persona, which is, I always find interesting, because like I always wonder what makes people in the heat of the moment, and like with all the adrenaline and like all the decisions that need to be made, all the pressures on their shoulder, the person that they become during that moment, like whether they're going to be the person that comes right down to your side of the field, or they're the person that's like, all right, go ahead, you go ahead, and good luck trying to dig me out of that spot.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I feel
appreciate
like,
that.
No, dude, I think if you fit the whole profile perfectly. And you know, and I've had a lot of people say, dude, you need to be less aggressive. And I'm like, I think about it, and I'm like, I'm honestly, I'm not stupidly aggressive. I feel like I'm not just running down the field trying to get kills, you know, blindly trying to figure stuff out as I'm going. Like, I have wheels turning constantly in my head, and it's hard to explain, and it's just kind of the game style that I've played throughout the years. And it is weird. Now that you mention that, I kind of somebody else on the field than what I am off the field. And I think everybody has a little bit of that. Like
everyone, it's like, that's why I think sports are super important in general, because like you learn more of yourself, I think, in those moments than many situations in life will ever present to you. Like if you have a pretty average, no sort of terrible things happen to you, or emergencies or disasters, like you get to face like what person you are in that moment. So it's always interesting to see like especially like paintball in general, because obviously we're in that world. I think that's like one of the biggest bonds between all of the pro players, or like even like semi-pro, whatever. Like you get to see people that make good decisions in times of stress.
Right.
So like I think that sort of like being able to see someone do that over and over and over again, like someone like you, where like wheels are turning, like, yeah, your style might be aggressive, but like it has some sort of reason behind it. Like I think that's like where a lot of the respect for each other come from. You're like, well, if there was an emergency situation, I kind of know how Carl will react, and I also know that he's not going to just crumble under the weight of it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, and that's it's figuring each other out.
Yeah,
it's knowing your enemy, right?
yeah.
You know, if you want to think about it that way, and and
Or yourself,
or
or your
yourself,
teammates. Yeah,
100% self confidence. I mean, anytime that I make these moves, I will look you in the eye and go, "Hey, I'm gonna make this spot, and I'm gonna shoot the back left and the back right, and then you're gonna have to help me out after that." You know, like I can
I
really
love that.
in the middle of a game look at you and say that, and I feel like you could do the same thing. You know, if somebody
Right.
says, "Hey, I need you to go to this corner, and then I need you to fill in the snake," you're gonna, okay, well, you're not in your head. You're not gonna go, well, I don't know if I can make corner, and I sure as hell don't know if I can make the snake. And you're gonna, no, I'm gonna make the fucking corner, and I'm gonna get in the snake, and I'm gonna go to work.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think a lot of most people in like I would say in pro anyway would feel that way, but I mean, I think it's a real thing that people would have that question like, oh well, I don't know if I'll make that spot, and even though you say, oh hell yeah, I'll do it, that
Hmm.
like little 1%, like we were talking about diving earlier,
Yeah,
where it's like you might pull out that 2% more than you thought you would, and then you get shot going to the corner.
yeah,
So like I mean that's something that I battle with constantly because I don't necessarily make the game plans, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
if someone says like, "Hey, you got to go up here and do this," there definitely is the voice quite frequently where it's like, "Well, I don't know if I can do that."
yeah.
But like you whether you fake it till you make it and you're like, "No, you're going to do that," or you learn about yourself enough that you're like, "Listen, you've done things like this before, you can make it."
Hmm.
Like whatever you have to do to actually believe that. Like I almost think you're a lucky person to sort of have that lack of fear where you're like, no, I'm going to do this and it's going to work out. Like, cause I'm an overthinker. I'm like, fuck, I don't know if this is going to work out. So,
No, it's,
so
oh,
like
don't get me wrong. It's definitely there.
yeah,
I'm just making sure that the self confidence is a lot louder than the resistance.
right. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Like
Yeah.
that the self-confidence is louder than the doubt. Cause that like, that's really all you need. You really need to just get that self-confidence a little louder than the doubt.
Hmm. Because it is always
Like,
there. I mean, there are times when I doubt myself, but I just make sure that I am to the point where I almost convince myself that no matter what, I'm gonna make it. But
yeah,
it is there. I just try and, like you said, I try and make it a little louder than what the doubt is.
I like that. I'll have to take that in because I mean, I, I don't even tell my teammates this, but like before a game, sometimes I'll have a little pep talk with myself where I'm like, you deserve to be here. You like you're gonna do your job better than to your best ability. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna go out there and do it. And like I think that's a big part of it, like making the self confidence louder than the doubt. Because like I know plenty of good like really good players growing up or like if I ever do like clinics or play with other teams where I'm like, man, this guy is a fucking balling player,
Hmm.
but he doubts himself. And like that almost is harder to get over than
Physical
the
ability.
yeah, than the physical ability. Like it's almost better to start with a guy that has the confidence right away.
Hmm.
But like I think that the guys that have that talent and then you can build their confidence after that end up being some of the best. So
Yeah, and
at least
it's tough, man.
yeah,
It's tough. It's something you work on just as much as you would. I believe you said this before. Just as much as you would, let's say, snap shooting or anything like that. You're
yeah,
constantly telling yourself that you can do something, even though you've doubted yourself in the past, or even right before you do it. And I do the same thing, dude. Right before I walk on, right before I go through the net to go on to the point, I go, "Let's go, motherfucker." And like
yeah,
right before I go on, and I see red, but it's a very clear red, if that makes sense.
yeah. No, totally.
Yeah.
It's a you become your other persona
Hmm.
where you're just straight speed kills out there, and then come off the field and you it's almost like relieving where you're like, well, I got to be my full self and like face this moment on the field, and then I get to come off and sort of like take that deep breath,
Yeah.
but then like you're still reeling to get back on there and see red again.
Oh,
So
oh man, dude, it's a
yeah.
feeling that it's you can't explain until you do it.
So
And
true.
there's something else that I do that I don't think I've really told anybody, but it happens it happens to me before the first point of the first game and the last point of the last game on Saturday. Whether or not we're playing on Sunday or not, it always happens on the first game on Friday and the first point on Friday of the first game and the last point on Saturday of the last game. And I get to the start box and I kind of look down the field and I'm kind of observing all the bunkers and the netting and the stands and the teammates around me. And I kind of jump back, like, the 12, 13 years that I've been playing, and I kind of jump back into the woods when I played for the first time, and I kind of like, dude, look how far you've come, like from this being this little naive kid of not knowing what paintball was and not knowing where your future was going to go. And if you were going to go to college, or if you were going to go pursue your paintball career, or even how you ended up in this position at all. And that all runs through my head. And then the 10-second buzzer sounds, and then I'm back in it again. And it's...
Oh, man. I love that. That's so poetic. Like,
yeah.
I think that... I think that's a huge key of just being happy. Like, you're fully appreciating the moments that you're in, and like how lucky you are that you've got these lessons from these moments. And man, I've been consciously trying to do this in the past few years, and because who doesn't listen to like self-help books, or like trying to just, you're just trying to be a better person for yourself and the world. Mm-hmm. But one thing that always comes up is appreciation, and like some of the best to ever do it at whatever it is, like they have those moments of like on the regular of feeling like, man, I can't believe I'm still here. And like that feeling hasn't changed in terms of how much I love doing it. And like I really think that's probably why you're such a happy guy, like because you can step back and take those moments. Because we both know plenty of people that like, they could get their favorite dinner every single day, like someone could pay them a compliment twice a day, mm-hmm. and they still kind of have that like why is this guy talking to me, or like we're like, oh well, it was better last night, and it's like, why?
Yeah,
just appreciate it. Like,
yeah, I'm appreciating that I'm eating at all.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, my team used to make fun of me because I've gotten better at it now, but like there's been times where I've been like, man, this is the best dinner ever, mm-hmm. or like this ice cream is the best ever. So they started calling me best ever guy, because they're like you just say that too much, and I'm like, yeah, I probably should calm that down, because it's not really rational. Like you can never have the best ever, but like I think it really just comes from like appreciating like your ability to get up and walk around and feel the sun and taste stuff, and so I think that's like a huge part of just sort of staying happy. And
100%.
I don't know, that's just me anyway. But
no, dude, I agree. And you know what? Keep saying best ever, because you know what? It's the best ever to you at that moment right now,
totally.
That point. So fuck them.
I like it. Yeah, right? Like I've never had the not fuck 'em mentality in my whole life. I've always been like, well, this is just what I like. This is what I do. Mm-hmm. So you're right. I should keep best evering.
Yeah, dude. It's like life is so short, and you know how we were kind of talking about, like how I was reminiscing there, and for some reason I will never ever not be humble, just because I didn't get here on my own. Like, dude, like I always think of it as like a baby, right? You put a baby in the woods, and it's gonna get eaten by wolves.
Yeah, not making it far.
But you put a pup in the wolves, or a baby, or whatever you want to say. You put a pup in the woods, surrounded by a pack, and it's gonna grow up to become a wolf. And if you think that you can do all this on your own, you're fucking crazy. And because even if you are on your own, it's just like we were talking about, that conscious voice that's in our head that might be telling you to do one thing, or you're thinking another thing, or trying to get you in a direction. Like that's a conversation, and a conversation takes two people. So there's something else that you're having an interaction with. And, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, whoever told Rich Telford to
Right.
watch me. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Tipman Effect having a team 20 minutes from my house. I wouldn't be here if my best friend, I didn't go to high school with my best friend who showed me what paintball was. So you're nuts to think you're in this thing all alone, and there's no way you should ever take it for granted. If you're in a position where you're loving what you're doing, and you're loving life, and you're loving the people around you, never take it for granted, and never think that you're in it alone.
Yeah,
And
I think that's couldn't be said any better. I think that I totally agree with you, and it's always nice to hear sort of like positive takes on life from other people, because I mean we're always talking to ourselves in our own head, and we all kind of have like the our own ways of defining things. And when you have a way to define something, and then someone defines it in a different way, but like has a little bit more positivity to it, I'm taking it. So
yeah,
I'm taking your analogy there and putting it into my own sort of understanding.
All yours, dude. And it's just like, if we can even take that back to paintball, everybody's trying to figure out how to figure the puzzle out, right? But everybody has a different look. I don't see the game the way you do. You don't see the game the way I do, but we're all still trying to figure out the same, solution to the puzzle. So
but that's interesting, because like it is such a puzzle. Like, for example, I'm sure you talk to people that don't know what paintball is all the time, because they're like, oh, what are you doing here? Like, oh, well, paintball tournament, or they're like, what? And like, I was sitting on sitting on the plane flying to Canada this last trip with this lady from New York, who she was probably like in her 60s, and so she was like, paintball, what is that? Like, can you tell me about it? And so kind of, we're on the flight for like 2 hours. So I'm like, I mean, if there's a time to think about it and give her a good answer, like really here's the time. Yeah. And she was just like, I don't understand like how it works. So obviously give her the rundown of the rules and all that stuff, and like the basics of it. But so she's like, so why do you like it so much? And
that's
I'm
such
like,
a good question.
Yeah, exactly. And I think why it's so addicting is because like every other sport has a single focal point, right? Like whether it's a football, a basketball, a golf ball. If you're a team, you're always sort of either blocking or running a fake route, as much as it's important for like the overall goal of the team. In paintball, every person is the focal point. Like every person could break the game at any moment. Every person is fighting life or death at every moment, and you're doing it together as a group.
Yeah.
And I sort of love that whole aspect of like, you're never just blocking. Like you're never just sort of you're never just passing it to Kobe all the time.
You're offense and defense at the same time.
Exactly. So like, at least in today's day and age, and like everybody sort of like has a more self-worth than like whether it's deserved or it's overinflated by social media or whatever, but you get to be important all the time. Like from the time that the buzzer goes off to the time that you get shot, like you were always a key member of the game, and like you literally get removed when you get shot, and that's probably why it hurts so much. Like not even physical, but you're like, oh my god, like I made that mistake, and like either I let my team down or I let myself down or whatever it is. And so she kind of understood that, saying how like, oh well, that makes sense, but like I don't understand like how you would watch it. And I'm like, well, that's been a problem for a while, right?
Yeah.
Because at least the way it's kind of televised, you see one or two guys at a time, and you don't really get to take in the whole picture, because I think paintball is more whole picture than any other sport. Like it makes sense to have the camera on a guy in a basketball game, dribbling, like making a cool move. But like if you're a real lover of basketball, you probably want to see that breakaway, like that guy that he passes to beforehand, where you're like, oh my god, he's open, he's gonna pass to him, and then he passes to him.
Yep.
Paintball's like that 24/7 all the time, where like any guy can make a break, any guy can make a move. So I think it's so cool how let me go back to like, I understand how it's hard for people to watch because they don't get the whole scope of what's going on. Yeah. And like for example, my girlfriend came to this last event, and like she's not a huge sports fan in general, but like she's not a dummy either. So I was kind of like, oh well, this is going to be kind of hard to explain. I'm just going to have her watch it.
Yeah.
And then just watching it in person, like we're back at the hotel room, and she's like, so did this guy do this because of this? And I'm like, holy shit, like how did you sort of like put that together? And
Yes, yes, he did.
yeah, exactly. And like I just think that like that's totally capable for anybody like flicking it on the TV and they're like, oh, what are these guys doing?
But she
So,
cares, though. That's the thing. She
right.
cares because you care so much. I don't want to say that because she feels like she has to care, but she obviously wants to care enough to try and understand it.
No, you're definitely right. Like there's a incentive there to sort of understand and care. But I mean, there's plenty of things that have an incentive to understand, but like for example, I mean, if I needed to pass uh algebra test to get into college, like, and I really, really wanted to understand it, a lot of times, like, it's like it takes more than just the incentive. Like, you
Hmm.
need to put in hard work to understand it. Like, I'm not saying that like it's impossible to pass it. I'm saying like I would need to like put in a lot of time and effort, even if I had the incentive.
Right.
So like that just told me that the game is not
Instant.
like algebra. It's understandable for people that don't even really know sports as long as you present it in a way that makes sense to someone that doesn't really know what's going on. Like I really think that like I mean if you had just an overhead camera of the whole field, it would make more sense than zooming in on a guy.
Hmm.
But that's just me.
No, I think so too, and I think the person asking the question of why needs a solid somebody to give them a solid answer.
Right,
Um,
to build off of it.
exactly, to build off of it and build that whole gameplay out and why somebody did this and it's to do this because of this and that's why this is, kind of a thing.
Yeah. That's why I think Maddie and Todd do an amazing job, and same with Nick, where like sometimes there'll be like a strange thing that goes on, and even like to players you're like that's a little strange, but they go out of their way to sort of be like, well, this happened because of A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And then like if you're just a casual viewer, you're like, oh, okay, like I'll take that for what it's worth, whether it's right or wrong, because we all have different opinions on like sort of like why something happened. As you were saying, we sort of see the game differently. But just that sort of like next step to jump off of like is definitely important.
Yeah, actually, I got up in the commentating booth like towards the end of Saturday. It was actually really fun because you kind of seeing the
Awesome.
game from a different perspective, and I got to spit a little game a little bit while I was up there. It was
Yeah,
really
how'd
cool
that go?
actually. It was
Now
awesome. It,
that
it was so cool because I'm like as I'm seeing plays, happen, they're all running through my head of, well, okay, he did this because of this, and I can instantly relate it to that situation that's happening on the field. So it was a really
yeah,
cool
totally.
experience.
That's why it's good to have like someone like you up in the booth where, because I mean you've played the field for a few weeks. You're a little bit sharper on your sword in terms of like what timing is on a certain layout or just in the game in general at the moment.
Hmm.
And like a current player's breakdown of a action is to me is like always so much better. Like I love hearing like when the players go up there and like Sloviak and Todd, like obviously Todd's coaching, Sloviak's playing. Like it's so important to have those guys like up there giving like really really accurate information. So I
Yeah.
mean I just appreciate that so much because I know that there's been, or I mean not to badmouth anyone, but and especially um like so like the Millennium webcast for example.
Hmm.
I understand they're working with a lot less money and like they're putting it out for free. Like it's way better to watch paintball than to not have it, and they're putting it out there.
Yeah.
But like there's a little bit lackluster understanding of the game as a whole compared to like the NXL. So it's a lot harder to watch, even for a player that knows what's going on. So like it just made me appreciate more sort of like the guys that are out there doing it, like you go up there and give a rundown of like what's happening in the game, because for the people that are trying to take that next step to jump off of understanding of like wherever their understanding is, they'll take that little bit of what you say, like, oh, well, Carl said that this happened. So like
Hmm.
now when I go play, I'm going to understand a little bit more of like how to deal with a certain situation. So I just think it's really important.
Yeah, no, I had fun. I'm hoping to get up there in the Chicago event.
Please do.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
great. Before I'm not sure how busy you are, but I know we kind of got off into a tangent, and I want to kind of
Yeah,
go
totally.
back.
Sorry
No,
about
no, I
that.
loved it. I loved it. It was great. Um, but I want to go back to 187 and your whole transition into Impact and where you're at
Yes.
now. But I wanted to tell you, I knew that you were going to be something. Not saying that I have a knack for like picking out certain people, but when I play against people, I kind of I'm basing it off of my gameplay or
Right.
my level of play or whatever, but because that's really all I have to go off of because whenever I'm playing somebody. But I remember this specific game. I can't remember what tournament it was, but we were playing Dorito side against each other.
I was going to bring this up to you because I remember this vividly, but continue and I'll tell you what like my take on this one.
Yeah, but I think I ran you down one time, and but then after that I could not for the life of me try and dig you out or figure out a way to come get you or shoot you, or and then for some reason you would shoot the guys on the other side of the field. And I just had, for that weekend, you were just my toughest opponent at that point, and I was like, I don't know who the fuck this kid is, but he gave me a run for my money. And I remember, I think I said something like that when we were in the line shaking hands.
Yeah, yeah. Like that was actually like you were one of my first like pro guys that I ever really talked to because like in the I remember this very vividly like in the line. I don't remember which tournament it was, but I remember like you're handshaking, and you're like, hey Nick, you had my number all game. Like I don't remember what it was, but like I just couldn't figure you out this game, and I was like, damn, that's like that means a lot, like coming from you, because like you're always like such a hard guy to control in general. So like, I was like kind of, because for me, like I get really awkward when I get like sort of any sort of like praise or attention.
Hmm.
So in the moment I remember being like, oh thanks, and then like walking away. And I was like, why did I react like that? I should have just been like, oh yeah, that was a good game, Carl. Like had you on that one game, but you'll get me next time, right? But I remember in the moment just being like, oh okay, and then walking away like, oh shit, like Carl Markowski just. And so after that, that was a definitely a boost to me being like, I think I can do this. Think I can do this.
That's awesome,
So
dude.
I,
I'm
I
glad.
appreciate
Yeah, dude. That's awesome. And I feel like, you know, during the game, fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, of
But
course.
yeah, but at the end, it's like, man, I feel like if you're just a constant asshole, it's no good to anybody. You know, also yourself. But
Right.
I'll tell you, man, if you played better than me, but honestly, whether we win or lose, I'm going through that line with a smile on my face because I just played paintball against some of the best players in the world,
Same here.
and we're all in the same position at the same spot. So I always have a smile on my face, and I remember that so distinctively because I was like, this motherfucker
Yeah.
was fucking on my shit this point or this whole game. And no, it was great. And it's so cool to hear that was kind of something that boosted your confidence in your
Oh yeah,
playing. And to
absolutely.
that's
It's crazy because like those games totally happen too, where you're like, what was a good one is like this last event, Fedorov was just crushing me. And like I would be like posted up on a spot and I'm like, he's not gonna come out, like there's no reason for him to come out here. I have his number. And he was just like poop, just one ball me in the face like three times. And I was like, this guy just had my number this whole time. And like it's crazy how that happens, how sometimes like someone's play style is just like not working for how you're playing that day or
Mhm.
whatever it is, but you're like, God, like I got to figure something out for the next one. But it's good because it only makes you sort of like you either write it off and you become weaker, or you're forced to think about it and you become stronger. So like
Yeah.
I just think that it's good to sort of, instead of being like, oh, I got fucked, or like this guy got a lucky ball, like I don't believe in lucky balls really.
Yeah.
So
I believe in random balls.
that's a thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember it happened last event where I'm shooting this way, and then I turn and I start shooting this way, and there was a pin on one side of that, or there was an inside pin on that little W by the snake side. There's an inside pin, but then there was, I believe it was a tower or a stand-up can or something on the other side, and the bounce shot is from the other side of the can, or whatever, on the outside of the snake side, and a random ball, like I'm just shooting over top, and a random ball I just see come over top of the W, bounce off of the pin, and then just hit me right in the face. I'm like, oh my god, are you serious?
That's the worst when you can see it the whole way, too.
Oh, the whole
like,
way.
That's not gonna, oh no, and then it's like already on you. It's like, that shouldn't have happened, yeah.
And I swear the ball's not spinning, nothing. It's just straight, just come right for it.
Just slow-mo right at you. You're like, I don't even deserve to move out of the way of this one. It's just, that's a god ball right there.
Mm-hmm. There's sometimes when you're when you're snap shooting with somebody, there's sometimes where you kind of feel yourself not go in all the way, and you're kind of staring balls down, and you're like, that's not going to hit me. So you kind of know that you can, that's not going to hit you. You can stay out and try and get that extra ball on that guy when he comes back out.
That's the best. That's like full living on the edge. I feel like that's like the equivalent of like hanging 10 or something on a big wave for paintball, where you're like, I'm really taking the risk here. I see it coming in, but not gonna hit me.
No.
Like that. I think that really comes from a lot of like practice and confidence for sure.
Oh yeah,
like,
just willing that ball away from your face.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, those are magic moments, man. I think that that's probably one of my favorite things, like playing, is like when you do get in a good gun battle like that, and both of you are kind of like in your alpha state, like sort of just peaking on whatever it is, just like that flow of the game, and both of you are dodging each other's paint and putting paint back at each other. You're like, man, this guy's on one right now, but so am I.
Yeah.
Like that's to me, that's like some of the coolest moments.
Oh,
or when you're shooting each other's paint out of the air, you're like,
oh yeah, dude, that's sweet. He's like, ooh, that was close. That was real close.
Absolutely.
I like the one where you can, where you sneak up on a guy, and he's like, I go back and watch some tape sometimes, and like where I kind of sneak up on a guy, and when he head checks, and head checks are quick too, and if he head checks and you shoot him with one ball as he head checks, like just on the edge of the goggle, and you see it spray off, it doesn't even need, I don't even care if it shoots you like right in the center, like I could just get a little bit and just sprays off the edge. I was like, that's good enough for me. I like those little ones too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's
oh, sorry, we're going tangent again.
That's all right. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm getting all my my bullet points here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, so you're on 187. You're playing with them. I think you played with them for what, 3 seasons?
No, longer than that. Maybe
at the pro level.
Oh, at the pro level, yeah, 2 seasons at the pro level.
And let's see, what was it? The end of 2015 when Impact approached you. I don't even know the timeline really. Was it Impact that approached you?
Yeah, I think it might have been 14. As I said before, like I'm the worst with dates, but so yeah, I was living and working in New York City at the time for a bedding and bath company, and like
Bed Bath and Beyond.
Well, that was one of the clients, Bed Bath and Beyond, but we sold so basically my job was to design like Disney and like Nickelodeon, like all of these kid brands, like bedding and sheets.
Oh, fun.
And like they sold those to like Walmart and Bed Bath and Beyond and Target. So anytime I'm in those stores, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that company. Like all those those cheesy kid sheets.
Yeah.
Like I made a lot of those. So yeah, it was just kind of like day to day, and I get this random number on my phone, and I'm like, well, I'm at work right now, like I shouldn't answer this, but like for some reason I answered it. I like go out in the hallway, I'm like, hello, and it's Dave Baines, and he's like, hey Nick, like I just wanted to like let you know, like we're rebuilding the team, and like we have this opportunity for you. Like I think it would be really good for you if you came over and played with us. Like we're gonna be like traveling all over. We're gonna play all the European events and all this stuff. And like, I mean, I'd like to think of myself as a pretty loyal guy in general, but so at that time I was like, no, Dave, like I really, really appreciate it. Like that like makes me feel really good that I'm doing something right if someone like you is gonna give me a call and like want to talk to me about playing for you. But like I really appreciate it, but I like this is my team, and like we're sort of like on a verge of like doing something really well and getting up in the pro division.
Impact at first.
I denied him, yeah.
Ooh.
So hung up, and like that was it. And honestly, I didn't even think about it too much after that. I was kind of like, oh yeah, like wash my hands clean of it, like it's whatever. I didn't like have a regret about it, where I was like, man, I should have just said yes. Like, what are you doing?
Well, that probably
And
grew a
then
lot of respect in Dave's eyes. That probably had a lot. He had a lot of respect for you at that just at that point when you did that. I think.
I never really thought about that, but maybe it did.
I think it did.
Which I'll have to ask him about that.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a pretty loyal guy himself.
Yeah, exactly. So. And if he does, if somebody like Dave calls somebody up and they respectfully decline the offer because you are loyal to this team. I mean, if he didn't, gain respect, he's crazy, and I don't think he's crazy. So.
Right. No, I'm sure he did.
Yeah.
But then didn't think about it, and then the next day around the same time I get a call again, like from his number. So I'm like, I answer it, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, all right, listen,
listen,
this
motherfucker.
Yeah, you'd be an idiot to not do this. Like, this is like what we're gonna do. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to build like one of the best teams ever, and like we're calling you because we think that like maybe in like a year or two, like we could make you into like a good player. And I'm like, oh, I thought I was a good player. Like, yeah. So, and he's like, so like this would be our travel schedule. Like this is like the deal, and like it would be ridiculous of you not to take it. He gave me like the whole rundown.
Were they offering to pay you along with everything else? And this would be the first time that you got paid to play paintball?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was either on a slightly free ride or paying even that year.
Yeah.
For stuff. So yeah, so then the money aspect came in, where it's like, well, I mean, it's not like I was making more money at the job that I was at.
Right.
But I was like, well, but it's paintball, and like that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Like that's awesome. I'm going to have to give you a call back. And he's like, okay, yeah, give me a call back whenever. So, I mean, I guess like there's certain moments when you sort of figure out a little bit about yourself that you didn't know. And so the first person, I'm like, I got to call my mom.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, well, clearly like my mom's decision is like the most important to me right now.
That shows your character right there too.
Right. So I was like, Mom, like this is the deal. Like, I don't know what to do. Like I feel wrong taking this offer, but like at the same time it could be like this amazing journey that like I've been wanting to do forever. And my mom, like, I mean, obviously she's seen my whole journey, and she's like, isn't this what you've been trying to do the whole time? Like, you've put so many hours and like so much time into this. Like, you would totally regret it when you're older if you didn't take this opportunity.
Typical mom move.
Like, yeah, like just pure rationale, and like, I mean, even though that was partial heart, like that plays into it. But so I'm like, all right, so I guess I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna do it. She's like, I think all your teammates will understand, and like Dave Painter, who was like a huge help to me. Like he's the one. I guess he's my Telford for you. Yeah. Where it's like I couldn't have come even close to even where I was then without him. Like with all the support and all of the things that he put aside just for the team. Like he's like another father figure almost in that aspect. So that was the next person I called, where I was like, listen, Dave, like here's the offer I got, blah 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 blah, and went down the list of calling each teammate and told them like the deal, and like that I was really sorry, but like that's what I was gonna do. And to my surprise, not a single one of them was like fuck you or like what
salty
are you
about
doing?
it?
Yeah, not one of them. All of them were like, congratulations, like you deserve it, go for it.
That's awesome.
And so like that definitely gave me even more respect for that group than I already had, because like that showed their character in the moment, and like they were really really supportive. So called Dave back, and I'm like, all right, let's do it. Like, what's the deal? So he gave me the schedule, and I'm like, all right, like I have this many vacation days, I think I can do it, blah 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 blah. Go into my boss's office, and I'm like, hey, listen, like this is my schedule for next year. I'm gonna need to take all of these days off. And she was like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And I was like, well, I mean, like, it's going to happen whether you say kind of or not.
Yeah.
And I really respected her. She was really a really caring, like great boss. So it was kind of hard to have that conversation. But
Mm-hmm.
like it wasn't like a moment where I could be like flip the desk and be like middle fingers to the sky, like I'm out of
Throw the
here,
papers
let's
in the
fuck this
air.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like that at all. I really appreciated everything she had done for me to like sort of like find my place in that office. But
Yeah.
um, so I was like, well, like I have an opportunity to like travel the world and play paintball. So, and she was like, what the hell is paintball? And I'm like, yeah, sorry, like I don't have time to explain it. So I was like, I guess
Yeah.
I'm putting in my 2 weeks notice. And she's like, we can work it out. Like, let's try to do something, this, and this. Like, maybe if you miss these few events, she really tried her best to like work it out. And I was like,
Right.
no, like, if I'm gonna commit to this, I'm gonna commit to it all the way. Like, whatever they need me to do. Like, I'm not gonna miss any practices. I'm not gonna miss any team time, whatever it is, because I think that that sort of thing is so important to a team. Like anytime someone misses a practice or even just like a hangout, it hurts like the
Mm-hmm.
whole group, not even just the individual. So I sort of knew that going in that like if I was going to commit to this, I was going to commit to it. So
Yeah.
I I quit my job and jumped onto Impact and didn't play almost at all the whole first year, and which was awesome learning experience for me.
Yeah.
I think that because you get that offer and you're like, I'm sweet. I'm the fucking man. I'm gonna roll in here,
Yeah. Yeah.
win some tournaments. And they're like, all right, well, so start filling pods. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. It kind of puts you in your place, and
Yeah, which is awesome, which is really good. I think everyone should at the very least experience that, but the most important, if you do experience it, never forget it because like everyone's has that time to work through and like I don't know, you should never like look down upon someone for being in that time or even like encourage people like I don't know. I think that that's a really important time for everybody. But
yeah, that growing period.
yeah, or even just you're not even growing, you're sort of like your ego's being beaten up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a huge thing. Like as you were saying before, like you have a knack for sort of like seeing things in players that like maybe this player could be really good in the future. Um, like that's my number one thing when I'm looking at people like for to play with or to pick up or whatever. Like I've always been very adamant on people that sort of have their ego in tune.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a really important thing for me anyway. But yeah, so got a lot of learning from some of the best. Like I mean, you've got J Rab, you've got JC, you've got like Rainey. You have all these guys that like really, as much as they were teammates, like I've kind of learned that it's okay to steal style from people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm taking all their best attributes and putting it into my gear bag and trying to become the best player that I can become. I mean, but I don't even want to put a limit on that. I think everyone should be not even the best player they can become. Everyone should be trying to become the best player.
Yeah.
So I'm stealing from all these guys. I'm stealing from you, and I've just learned that I'm becoming a thief from anyone that inspires me or that is doing something really well. So yeah, I guess that's where I'm at the moment is just stealing things from people and trying to work out how to become the best player.
And you're just literally up the W, taking lunch money from kids and just running through on everybody.
Yeah, man, I hope that keeps up. I like that's a cool thing. I don't know if the W is going to be around next
I don't
year
know
or the
either.
year after. So like I don't know. People have questioned me like, well, what are you going to do without it? And I'm like, man, I've never had it. Like I've
Yeah,
always been
yeah,
pretty good.
yeah, man. You played this game before the W, and
Yeah.
you're gonna play it afterwards.
Exactly. I think that like just like any game, like it evolves. Like I mean, there's been times in basketball where it's like, all right, make your whole roster 9 foot players, and then they're like, we're starting to get into a time where it's like, you got to have little guys that can get underneath and shoot, and like you
Mm-hmm.
got to have 3 point shooters. Like there's always like an evolution, and I guess my goal at this point would be to never fall out of the changing. Like you got to change with the tide. So I mean, if they're gonna make the whole field lay down snakes and you have to crawl the whole thing and you can never pop up anywhere, I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, I've gone years of where, man, I hate this field, or man, this field doesn't really suit my playing style, or this and that. Like, I've really, the past few years, I've kind of learned to love every field. And even when the W was first introduced, I hated it. I thought it was the biggest, stupidest looking dumb bunker on the field.
Yeah.
And after the first year, I'm like, okay, I guess, it's out of my control, and I'm gonna have to learn to love it. And I've learned to love every field that the NXL has come out with because I don't have a choice. And
Yeah, I think you really put yourself at a disadvantage if you're gonna chalk something up to a bad field, or like a field doesn't fit your playing style. Like if you want to be a good player, like, which I hope that everyone's trying to be, it's like you can play on anything.
mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't matter. And like going back to that conversation I was having with that lady on the plane, I was trying to tell her how like each field changes every time. It's always a new puzzle, and that's like one of the most addicting things about it. Like you're never going to play on the same court over and over again. Like there's always a different struggle and sort of like where you're going to fit and how you're going to play a certain thing. And like I think that the addiction to that struggle is one of the best things ever, and it doesn't really matter if like what snake you get or like how the Doritos are set up. Like the good players are going to be the good players because they're going to find a way to evolve
and figure it out. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Like, do you think that if they made an entire field of giant stand-up W's, like let's say like 10 giant stand-up W's, you think Fedorov's going to be in the bottom 10 of the league? Like, no way. That dude is just a good player.
He's going to be jumping over top of the W's.
He's going to find a new way to do it. He's going to find a new way to do it. And like, so it hurts me sometimes when people are like, oh, like I can't play this field because of this, or like I hate this. And it's like, well, then that attitude right there, you're not evolving enough to be in every spot. So like
you're already at a disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great spot to kind of end it. It sucks because I feel like we could probably have a conversation for at least 2-3 hours.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we can definitely do that on our own time, So, but I really, really appreciate you hitting me up for this. Like, this is probably one of our longest conversations ever. But like,
hands down.
Now I know that we can keep that up. So that's cool. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And I think, as I've been doing these, you kind of get this better understanding of not only people but just individual guys like yourself, or like I kind of I dive a little bit deeper into their character and your character and kind of who you are as a person. And it's weird, even though it's kind of a general conversation. I feel like you seem like somebody who can kind of is a real good judge of character, who just by body language, or how you can judge body language and how somebody is kind of, talks or whatever. And
right.
It's so fun to sit down and do these because you only have this one layer at tournaments that somebody.
Totally.
But then you sit down and do these and you're like, oh man, it's just a normal dude with, like-minded, and it's really cool.
Yeah. I was so excited when you started these because like, you're just like you're a real positive, like good head on your shoulders sort of guy. And so I was like, oh, Carl's going to kill this. And like, I remember listening to, like, cause I've listened to all of them cause obviously I'm a paintball nerd cause you gotta be, but, I remember the first ones cause like, just cause I'm a podcast geek, like I literally wake up and start a podcast and fall asleep when a podcast is going on. So the first ones I was like, ooh, this is awkward, but like, this is the growing stages, right? Like you're going to learn this just like any other position. And like, I think your ability to like sort of listen and like draw those things out of people has been getting so much better. And so like I just want to tell you that like your each podcast you've done has gotten better and better. So like keep it up. It's awesome. It's awesome to hear.
Thank you, man. It means a lot. And I would love to eventually get to the level of where I can sit down in front of people, because these conversations are great, but they're 10 times better when you're sitting in front of somebody and you both have a beer in your hand. And you can, it's vibing almost.
Totally. Yeah.
I want to get to that stage.
More energy.
Yeah.
You can do it. I like that goal. I think you can do it.
Yeah. It's definitely a goal. That's for sure. All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time, and I would love to have continue this conversation, maybe do it at an event or something like that, and kind of dig at each other's brains a little bit more.
Yeah, totally in. Sounds good. Thanks, Carl. Much appreciated. Have a good one.
Anytime, man. Take care of yourself.
You too.
All right,
Bye.
We'll see ya. That was a great conversation, dude. I had so much fun on that one. That has been is already one of my favorites. So, and I knew it was going to be. The few times that I talked to Nick, I knew he was an intelligent guy, and he had a lot of paintball, IQ that was building, and it's just been really cool to watch him kind of adapt and build and kind of structure himself in that impact camp. So I thought that was really cool. And if you guys want to know more, or if you'd like to follow him, he's over on Instagram at Nick Lovall. It's NickLoveall, kind of a play on words on his name, so it's pretty funny. But another big thank you goes out to our sponsors, Dr. Paintball. You can find them at drpaintball.com. Again, they are big on helping you guys out on financing all the gear that you need. They are there to help you out, drpaintball.com. Another big thank you to Charm City Paintball. He has headbands and head wraps where the quality is through the roof. Like I said, guys, make sure you check him out. He's on Facebook, Charm City Paintball. Check him out. Another big thank you also goes to Carbon Paintball, who are the manufacturers of the base layer, the SC protective base layers. There's also a new line coming out, which is the CC line. And it's going to be a little bit more affordable, not as high end as the SC stuff, but just as durable and pretty slick looking, if you ask me. So thank you, Carbon Paintball, carbonpaintball.com, and thank you to Planet Eclipse for coming out continuously every single year with some of the best looking and hands down best shooting markers on the planet. You can find them over at planeteclipse.com. So that's another one in the books, guys. I think that's number 18. So man, we're coming. I might have to do something for maybe I'll do a giveaway or something for the 20th episode, and give something back to the community, the paintball community. So thank you guys so much. Again, you can find me over on Facebook at Carl Microwave Markowski, or you can find the podcast one at the Playing On Podcast. That's all on Facebook, and then on Instagram I am cmarkizzle, and then there is the Playing On Podcast on Instagram as well. So until next time, yeah. Jeez, it's been a long day. I just got back from the MSXL down in Columbus, Ohio at Level Up Sports, man. That was an awesome time too. It's very cool to see local paintball, and especially paintball in Ohio, growing. So that is an awesome sight. So thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you again next time here on the Playing On Podcast. Peace.